everybody.
Hi guys, welcome back.
I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we are two average guys. So, some interesting stuff to talk about today. Not all of it is fun and exciting to talk about.
Absolutely not.
We'll talk about the Huskers. We'll leave that for last, which is why I kind of put the Whine session on there. And just a precursor to that, anybody that says that Cornhusker fans are whiny and bitchy when we lose, yes, we are.
Well, yeah.
We're passionate college football fans, so we care about our team, and when we lose and we feel like we have a good team and we lose, we get mad about it. So we'll talk about that later. Also talk a little bit about Cornhusker Nation later, an announcement to make there, and talk about what else happened in college football.
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest stories yesterday is probably that we had 6 ranked teams lose.
It's not a good week.
It's a pretty good week. So, and a few of those were unranked teams. So,
which is even better.
Yeah. So let's talk about. Let's see. The highest ranked team was number 12 LSU. So they got whooped.
Yeah, they got their butts kicked.
37-7 by Mississippi State. So Mississippi State, really just controlled that game.
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State. A couple years ago, the first year that they did the playoff, the very first ever rankings they came out with, they were the first team that was number 1. So I mean, they've been good in the past. Last year, I think they struggled a bit. I mean, they had Dak though, and he's great. So they haven't been as good as they have over the last couple of years, but it looks like they're having a little bit of a comeback year.
Yeah, I mean, a good start for them. Yeah, but LSU, once again, I said at the beginning of the season, I thought they were overrated.
They're always
to
average.
be in the top 15, I thought it was a joke. That I think 4 losses last year, so not a good game for them. Now, they don't slip out of the top 25.
They dropped 13 spots.
I think they should have dropped out of the top 25, considering they did get whooped as bad as they did.
There's some teams, I think, that are still undefeated or have bigger, wins that probably should be ranked in the top 25.
Yeah. Louisville didn't just lose to Clemson. Louisville got destroyed.
Oh yeah, they got smoked.
By Clemson. They got manhandled. Really, Clemson just came in there and said, "Hey, we know last year was a close game. We're defending champs. You almost beat us last year, but we're going to come in and show you who's boss again." And really just took it to them.
Yeah, it was a beatdown. I mean, it's enough to the point where I started watching something else.
Yeah, you went to USC Texas.
Exactly.
I mean, this game was no contest. 47-21 win. Louisville, number 14, loses to Clemson. I think they dropped to 19 in the standings. So not a huge drop. I think a well-deserved drop. And I think really it just showed that Lamar Jackson can't do it by himself. I mean, he really can't. He's
great.
You see him out there. You see him moving, breaking tackles. Not the best O-line. And really, all together as a team, it was not a really good team effort. And he made some bad decisions throwing the ball. He made some bad decisions running the ball. But overall, I think Louisville had a good year last year. They're going to have a good year this year, but they're not going to be a top 10 team. And Clemson just really showed, hey, we are in the top 5 right now and deserve to be there. So
yeah, I mean, Clemson's played 2, pretty high top 15 teams already in the first 3 games.
Yeah,
and they've kind of put
they showed that they deserve to be where they are.
Exactly. So.
Let's see. K-State lost to Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt unranked, and K-State only put up 7 points. And
I was a little surprised.
They were talking about, in the morning, if anybody watches game day, I'm not a fan of it, but I do watch it every now and again. And watching that, they were talking about the Big 12. Who to look out for in the Big 12, what teams are really going to maybe be there in the end of the top 10. And they mentioned K-State, TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. They mentioned all 4 teams.
I mean, I don't know that I would disagree with them. K-State's been pretty dominant the first couple games. Vanderbilt's not normally an SEC powerhouse type of team.
No.
And K-State went there and only put up 7 points. Yeah. I was a little surprised.
Yeah, so Vandy takes home that game. Good win for them. Bad loss for K-State in the whole scheme of things, so they end up losing that game. We had UCLA and Tennessee both lost. So Tennessee was number 23. They lost to number 24, Florida, 26-20.
I said Tennessee always finds a way to piss that game down their leg against Florida every year. That's exactly what they did. They lose on a Hail Mary.
And sure enough, they did. So Tennessee drops out of top 25. Close game, but really, once again, I think both teams are kind of Tennessee had a lot of hype at the beginning of the year, but
Florida hadn't even scored an offensive touchdown since their bowl game last year because they didn't play last week.
Yeah.
I mean,
can't fault them for that.
Can't fault them for that, but they only scored two pick sixes in their first game.
They haven't been known for offense since Tim Tebow was there. So that's the last time they were known for anything offensively, and it was more for the rushing game than it was the passing game. And even then, he was actually a good passer in college. So.
They're always great on defense.
And then we had UCLA Memphis. So Memphis ended up beating UCLA, and they were talking about this on game day, how Memphis, talking about the spread and how Memphis could beat the spread. I can't remember what the point spread was, but they said Memphis could be a tough
I'm sure it's
challenge
probably
for
double
UCLA.
digits at least.
And they're going to Memphis. Memphis
Maybe
has
it wasn't
won,
double digits.
I think their last
Maybe it was 7 to 10.
3 home games against ranked opponents, they've won. If I remember the number correct, but they won 48-45. So that was an exciting game to watch. I caught some of it.
I mean, it was kind of during the Nebraska. Was it during the Nebraska game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were just, coming on, showing scores or whatever, and that was going back and forth. It sounded like a pretty, exciting game. But good for Memphis. I didn't think UCLA would do anything that special, being down by 30 points against A&M the first week. I know they came back and won, but no, that's a great win for Memphis, and we'll see kind of where they go from here.
Absolutely. So let's run down the top 10. So we had a little bit of a shakeup in the top 10, not a big shakeup, but a decent shakeup in the top 10. Which really can make a difference in down the road. So we have Alabama. So Alabama beat Colorado State 41-23. They stay at number 1. I had it in my prediction. I thought Bama might move down a couple spots, even one spot. I think Clemson. I had a feeling that Clemson might jump them to number 1 with the way they played the last couple weeks. But it didn't happen. Alabama stays number 1. Not really that impressive with 18 points over Colorado State at home.
It's kind of funny because if it was the other way around, if Alabama had played, I know that they played Florida State and they beat them, and I get that. But if they'd played 2 ranked teams and had beaten them, and Clemson played somebody that was, like a Colorado State and beat them 41-13, I feel like Alabama would have jumped them in the rankings.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and that's just the...
Yeah. I think Bama was like a 37-point favorite in that game. And what was funny is at one point they had some of the starters out, including Hurts, and then like when they scored went up to 23 points. Colorado State scored. They missed their extra point or got blocked. Bama puts in Jalen Hurts again for one last drive in the game. I don't know if they were trying to just score one more touchdown, but I mean, you guys are already going to win. All you had to do was move the ball.
And the way that football's kind of gone over the last handful of years, in my opinion, is, especially now with the playoff, you don't have to win every game by 40 points.
Yeah, no.
And sometimes you're going to play a lesser opponent, and you're just not going to play that well. You just got to figure out how to get the win. But bringing the guys back out, that's a little bit ridiculous.
Whatever. We talked about Clemson. Oklahoma destroyed Tulane, 56-14. So it's Tulane, so you don't have to really look too much there. Oklahoma should have won that game that big.
So what would the score have been if Tanner Lee still played for Tulane?
Well, it depends on how many interceptions you would have thrown.
You would have thrown 2 more pick sixes.
USC defeated Texas, so we'll talk a little bit more about this game later, but they won 27-24 double OT. Penn State destroyed Georgia State. So, people talk about Penn State and say, they haven't played anybody yet, That was the problem. They kept saying that last year. They haven't played anybody. But they're shutting down teams. They're
shutting out teams.
It's their second big shutout this year.
When they scored 50-some points and they shut somebody out.
The second one this year. And people still think
no one else is doing that?
They think they're not worth anything. Well, they're beating the teams that they should beat big. They're beating them big with no contest. So Penn State, once again, one of those teams in the Big Ten to look out for this year. I really think that people are overlooking them, not talking about them enough. They had a great year last year. I think they need to be talked about more, and hopefully, since Nebraska's not anywhere close to winning the Big Ten, I'm pulling for Penn State.
And we have to go to Penn State. That might not be great.
No, it might not be. Washington was at number 6, now at number 7. They destroyed Fresno State. Washington, team to look out for in the Pac-12. I don't know if it's USC. It's definitely not Stanford. Oregon State, Washington State.
State.
I think Washington's the team to watch out for, and Oregon. So Oregon jumped up in the top 25. I think they're at 23. Oregon destroyed. They scored 77 points in the first week. They put 42 up in the first half against Nebraska, which I know might not mean much now. But Oregon's looking good early on. I think they might be a team to watch out for in the Pac-12.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they were getting no love going to Wyoming. They were only favored by like 13 or 14 points, and they were like, we're going into a high school stadium. We're going to beat them by 35 points. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, there's no contest there. Michigan. So Michigan wins 29-13 over Air Force. So Air Force is another one of those teams who has a rush attack. They're like the Georgia Tech. They're like the Navies. They're like anybody that runs that triple.
Army, Navy, Air Force.
So the triple option, and that's hard to defend. But Michigan really not a very good game. I think that was at their house too.
Unfortunately, this game was at the same time as Nebraska, because I feel like if it would have been on a different time, I probably would have watched a decent amount of it. So I don't know all of the ins and outs of the game, but I know it was 9-6 at half.
Yeah.
And Michigan was up 9-6 at half. But it didn't look great for Michigan. And
the score doesn't look good, and they dropped one spot to number 8. Once again, I think Michigan still has a lot to prove this year. I haven't really seen much from them early on, which a lot of teams are in the same boat. So
you got 3 Big Ten East teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
And they're all going to have to play each other, so something's got to give.
I think once we get into conference play, it'll make things a little more interesting for Michigan for sure.
Especially this upcoming week. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah. Ohio State ended up beating Army once again 38-7. So I wouldn't call it impressive, but they did only give up 7 points. So Ohio State's defense is pretty decent this year. And winning 38-7, good win for them. They do drop 2 spots to number 10 in the rankings. Oklahoma State, they moved up 3 in the rankings from number 9 to number 6. Now Pitt has had 2 losses back-to-back weeks. Penn State and Oklahoma State, who has just absolutely destroyed them. Remember last year?
2 best teams in the country.
Well, you remember last year, Pitt had 2 wins against 2 of the best teams in the country.
They did. They beat Clemson. Or no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did they beat Clemson?
They beat Clemson.
That was Clemson's loss, and they beat Penn State.
Yeah. So they had 2 really big wins. And not this year. So Pitt really just got destroyed back-to-back weeks, 56-21 or 59-21. Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph. I talked about him last week a little bit. I think he's the team to watch out for, or he's the quarterback to watch out for the Heisman this year. Not only that, but I think he's the one that's going to take to beat Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma State is going to beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a better team. Yeah, you can argue that they haven't played anybody, but Oklahoma's only played Ohio State, who in my mind
beat them up.
Who in my mind is still overrated. So, but it was a good win against a top 5 team. But Mason Rudolph, 497 yards passing, and he had I believe 4 receivers over 100 yards in that game. So
and he had a lot in the first half.
Yes. So holy cow!
Hold the reins back a little bit.
Mason Rudolph is he's on fire. With these kind of numbers, I don't know how you couldn't consider him for the Heisman. If you're doing a Heisman talk now, he should be in the top 2.
I haven't really paid that close attention to what they say the Heisman front runners are at this point in time of the season.
I bet you they have Jalen Hurts in there, which I would highly disagree with.
Baker Mayfield's probably number 1.
Baker Mayfield's in there. Sam Darnold might be up there, even though he's a good quarterback. I got nothing against him. I don't know if he's Heisman caliber. But I think Mason Rudolph, he's got to be in the discussion of the top 2 or 3 in the country right now for skill and just overall.
Yeah, especially with his statistics that he's put up so far.
So they move up to number 6. Wisconsin jumped to number 9. Ohio State jumped back to number 10. Wisconsin killed BYU 40-6. So I think I said I thought that might be a good game last week.
I think I said that I was interested in it.
Ended up not being much of a game. So, but I'm fine with that. Wisconsin, they're a good team. They're going to continue to be good this year. So let's talk about that Texas USC game. So USC was number 4. They dropped only 1 spot to number 5. So here's my problem with that. So they had Texas, who's unranked, 1-1, got destroyed. They gave up 51 points to Maryland at home. They go to USC. USC barely beats them in double overtime with a field goal.
And they even had to get a field goal at the end of the game to tie it.
Yeah, and that was with 45 seconds left. So actually, a really good drive with 45 seconds left. Texas defense had been pounding them the entire game,
Right.
and actually looked really good.
They did.
So I really enjoyed watching that game, which I'm not a fan of either team, of course, but I enjoyed watching that game. I think Texas defense really showed, hey, this is what we can do, and that was exciting to me, even though I'm not a fan of Texas. But USC, really, they came in full force. They really went at him hard and really went at him fast.
Yeah,
they put a lot of pressure on Darnold, and Darnold actually showed up to the pressure. And 45 seconds left to go down and make that drive to get in field goal range was pretty impressive by USC in the offense. So, but I still think USC, at ranked number 4 at that time, beating a team that really is not going to be anywhere used to what they used to be like, or used to be as good as they were.
Especially when they're playing Oklahoma, they're playing Oklahoma State, they're playing TCU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about maybe a 500 team, maybe a 6-6, maybe a 7-5, 8-4 at best. I mean, they're already 1-2.
Yeah, they're not a team that's going to surprise anybody this year. Texas
not this year. I mean,
a couple years maybe.
I think that they'll end up being pretty decent, but
yeah, I do think Herman can turn that team around. And last night, I think showed a glimpse of what they can do on defense, which to me should be scary to a lot of the other teams in the Big 12, because the amount of pressure they brought up front and put on Darnold, he's a good enough quarterback to get out of some of that pressure and get it away. But the reason why I was only 17-17 going into the overtime is because the defense on both sides showed up that game.
Right. I think I texted you even that I thought Penn State would jump ahead of USC after that, and they did, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough every year. I always think a Pac-12 team is going to get left out because they end up beating each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of West Coast skill guys. We'll see, because USC, Stanford, even Washington State, or not Stanford, sorry,
Washington.
USC, Washington State, Oregon. I mean, can you pick somebody out of there that you think would make the playoff?
All right,
I know Washington went last year.
I think
USC's up there, and there's a lot of hype around them.
There's hype all the time, and that's the thing that killed me about this game last night. Is there's a lot of hype around USC Texas, like it's a big rivalry game. It's really
they
not.
Played in the national championship, what, in 05 or 06 or whatever it was?
11 years ago. So they're still high on this 11 years ago. They showed a big thing on Vince Young. Vince Young, why
they
did
kept
Vince
showing
Young,
Matthew McConaughey and Vince Young.
Yeah, and they made a big deal about Vince Young and how his NFL career, and he screwed himself over in the NFL, really. So this big thing, like he's some big awesome guy. Well, he really hurt himself in the NFL, and he had a great career at Texas. So, but that game is nothing more than another game, because it's been 11 years since they played each other, so they hyped it up.
Did you see what they were talking about this week? So, USC had with the Reggie Bush business, they had all these games, all these wins vacated.
Mm-hmm.
All these wins got taken away. They were claiming that they were 4-0 against Texas, even though Vince Young and Texas beat them in the national championship, because that season their wins got vacated. So apparently their losses got vacated as well.
Oh, yeah, their losses got vacated. Yeah. Keep on drinking.
That was hilarious.
I did find it funny that they talked about Vince Young and Matt Leinart kind of jabbing back and forth a little bit before the game, and Vince is like, we're still good friends. We talk all the time, and we still talk about that game and how awesome it was. And
that was an awesome game.
Yeah, he's like, I always have to remind him who won, what the score was at the end of the game. I thought it was kind of
awesome game. That's for sure.
Florida State, they're still number 12 in the rankings, which they're 0-1. It's unfortunate for them because they're in a situation they can't really control. But I think to keep a team that's 0-1 in the top 15 still is a little when you got teams that are 3-0 and killing it.
I mean, granted, they lost to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tricky situation. It's a tough situation because, I mean, what, you're supposed to just drop them to 20?
Yeah.
Well, everybody else has got to play 2 games and we haven't. 12's a little high.
Yeah, well, even Miami's 14 and they're 1-0, but their one win was Bethune-Cookman. So I mean, really, they'd be ranked number 14.
They dropped both teams last week, and then they pretty much just moved them back to where they were at. I don't know. I mean,
but
they're making that game up.
Yeah,
right. The Florida State Miami.
Yes,
they're supposed to play this week. They're making that up.
That's been postponed.
Okay.
Auburn is ranked at number 15, but they had a really weak win over Mercer, 24-10.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but once again, I think some of these teams get a lot of love because of their past and who they are, their brand. LSU, once again, talked about them only dropping 13. I think USC, they're not a top 10 team. I really don't think they are, especially after this week. They beat Stanford, but then Stanford turns around and loses to an unranked Memphis. So, really, I mean, how do you – it's early on. So, we talk about this all the time about the rankings. It's still
Stanford
early on.
Lost to San Diego State, yeah.
Oh, San Diego State,
yeah,
sorry.
No,
so,
good,
Stanford lost to San Diego State 2017. So, you look at that loss, you look at the win for USC to beat Stanford. Really, is that win that special now? It's still a Pac-12 opponent, but how special is that? So they're going to look at that later in the season. If USC is still, getting some votes to be in the top 10, that could come into play. But
I'm not sure who all they have on their schedule. I mean, between Washington and Washington State and Oregon and these other Pac-12 teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it does hurt you a little bit when some teams start dropping out of the top 25 that you got on your schedule and they're looking like, or that you already beat on your schedule that was a great win at the time, but now maybe not.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think USC will be. I think they'll be there at the end. They'll be up there, but I'm not sure they're going to make the playoff.
Yeah, I think Pac-12 is going to be an interesting conference this year, and they might be left out due to just them beating on each other all the time. So,
well, plus a lot of those big time games are at 9 at night Central Time, and so people on the East Coast don't watch them. So that hurts them.
Some people in the Midwest don't stay up that late.
I like to stay up and watch those late ones. Those are fun. They're always good.
I struggled last night. I really wanted to go to bed, but so my top 10 or top 5, what I believe should be in the top 5 right now. I think Clemson, like I said earlier, I think should be number 1. I think they've showed that they got the skill. They lost Deshaun Watson. They lost some big guys on offense, but their offense is still producing. They haven't really lost much in skill. So I think Clemson, I look at them at number 1. I think Oklahoma State is number 2. The only reason why I dropped
Oklahoma State or Oklahoma?
Huh? Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
They stay at number 2.
Oh, they stay at number 2.
They stay at number 2. I think Alabama, I dropped them at number 3. The only reason why is because still they haven't proven much on offense. We know that Jalen Hurts can run the ball. We know he can't throw the ball. It's their defense that's going to win them games.
Well, the thing about them, too, is...
And they barely beat Colorado State.
They beat Florida State, but we're not really sure what kind of team Florida State is. They lost their quarterback in that game out for the season, and they haven't played since.
Yeah,
so it's kind of hard to tell, like, was that really that big of a win? Like, yeah, at the time it probably was, but when it comes down to it, it's probably really not going to be that big.
Yeah, absolutely. I got Oklahoma State at number 4 and Penn State at number 4. So right now I think they're tied.
Right.
Between those two teams, you got two teams that people are going to argue they haven't played anybody. But what they're doing is they are destroying teams right now. They're going in and it's not even a shootout. They're the only ones shooting. And they're the only ones scoring. They are putting up numbers like no other team in the country is doing right now.
And shutting teams out.
And they're shutting them out. So
I think that those two teams playing each other would be absolutely awesome to see.
But you got two high-powered offenses.
If they ended up being like 2 and 3 in the playoff, that would be awesome.
I do. And so we were talking a little bit earlier too about they had. I guess they came out with some of the experts that they call themselves, which we always have to put quotes around that.
We can be experts too.
Yeah, we are experts, really. In our own opinion, we're experts. So you look at what some of the experts picked, and 3 of them said that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma are going to finish in the top 4 at the end of the year.
Right.
They feel like they're going to be 2 of the playoff teams.
The only way that would be able to happen is if one of them did not make the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
Because
and you would have to have...
It would be Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State, but then Oklahoma doesn't make it to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State ends up winning. Oklahoma's only ends up... I don't even know how you even do that.
How do you even calculate that?
Yeah, I don't think that's possible because otherwise they're playing each other twice.
I don't think it's going to happen. We're going to wipe this conversation out right now because Oklahoma State's going to beat Oklahoma.
I told you that Oklahoma State was going to win the Big 12.
We talked about it last 2 weeks, I think.
Preseason, I've talked about it every single week.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Kincaid, go. Get out of here. But I really think that Big 12, I don't even know if they have a team in the top 4, it's going to be Oklahoma State. It won't be Oklahoma.
Right. I know that's kind of what we want as well as what we think. Maybe it's more of a want, but I'm still thinking.
I think it's going to happen because I don't think Oklahoma. I think they're good, but I don't think they're as good as Oklahoma State. I don't think they're not going to be able to stop them. They're not going to be able to stop that offense. And defensively, they're not going to be able to stop them. And offensively, Oklahoma State's defense is good enough to stop Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield. They're fast. They're going to be able to attack Baker Mayfield. And we saw last year what happened when he gets put under pressure, a lot of pressure, he makes mistakes.
Yeah,
he can escape. I think he's escaping pretty good this year. But when he can't escape, he's done. He makes mistakes. So something to look forward to later on in the season when those two teams play each other. So we're going to talk about Nebraska next, but hang with us. We're going to talk about the Week 4 games next week. Then we'll go in and we'll have our little wine session on Nebraska and kind of where we think we are now and what we need to do to be a little better in the future. So we got number 23 Utah on Friday night playing at Arizona. So that could be an interesting one. Arizona's 2-1 right now. They actually have a 69% chance of winning that game, according to the polls and what they're showing.
According to ESPN predictor.
Yeah, so ESPN, whatever. So Utah, Utah has had a good year so far, but so has Arizona. They put up a couple big numbers. Arizona has in their 2 wins, so something to look forward to. I think that'll be a good game on Friday night to start our weekend. Florida or South Florida plays again
on
Thursday night. So
they always do.
Number 5 USC plays at Cal. So
yeah, Cal's 3-0. Who was I saying that they beat? They beat a couple.
I can't remember.
They beat a couple decent. Played. I mean, nothing crazy or anything, but
it's Pac-12 matchup.
I think Cal.
I still think USC has a lot to prove. They struggled in the first game.
And that's a late game, I think. It's at like 9.
Yeah, they got a late game, yeah.
Yes.
So that's going to be on the West Coast. It's going to be a late game. So I think that should be a fun one to watch. Number 5, USC at Cal. Number 16.
No, I think it was Washington. I don't know. Washington, Colorado, I think was late.
Someone else is playing.
Either way.
West Coast. Number 16, TCU playing at number 6, Oklahoma State. So once again, you got 2 Big 12 teams getting in the Big 12 matchup.
Yeah, that'd be good.
This could be a fun game to watch. I still think Oklahoma State's going to win. I think Rudolph's going to put up at least 350 passing yards on TCU. TCU is always, in the past, and even when they're in the top 7 teams in the country, TCU's always been an offensive team. Their defense hasn't been the best. Their defense hasn't won them games, and that's going to be the difference in this game, in my mind, is Oklahoma State's high-powered offense is going to destroy TCU's defense. They might put up some points against Oklahoma State, but it's not going to be close enough to even consider Oklahoma State being damaged by this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a fair. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I know that this should be College Game Day. College Game Day is apparently at Times Square.
Yeah. So all they talked about, leading up to this week and kind of moving after this week was the Pac-12 or the Big 12. And TCU and Oklahoma State. Now TCU should be one of those teams potentially in the top 4 at the end of the year. Has a chance to be in a playoff. If you're looking at the Big 12 as a whole. There's 4 teams right now. K-State was one of them that has a chance to do big things this year. Well, TCU, I think there's going to be a big test for them. If they can beat Oklahoma State, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I suppose.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
I think the Big 12 probably ended up screwing themselves by throwing in that championship game. Which I know we've said in the past, Big 12 is kind of screwed because they don't have a championship game. But now I think that...
Depends on how much they beat themselves up before
Yeah, it just depends on how much they beat themselves up before that. But we'll see.
Number 8, Michigan at Purdue. All right. Michigan still has a lot to prove this year. I think they have potential. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think they're as good as number 8. And I think Purdue is going to show them that this week that they're not as good as number 8 in the country.
Purdue's been playing pretty well, surprisingly. They hung tight with Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
I know Louisville just kind of got beat up by Clemson, but they've been putting up some points. So
yeah,
Michigan's defense is pretty good. So something's got to give. I mean...
Either they're going to show us that, hey, we're wrong, and they're going to take care of Purdue with ease, or Purdue's going to show them, hey, you don't deserve to
get some points on them and make it a dogfight. I think
that's my upset of the week.
You're actually going to.
I'm taking Purdue. I'm taking Purdue over Michigan.
I think it'll be. I'm not going to go that far. I think it'll be closer than people will think.
I think it's because they're playing. I think
Purdue's going to score some points.
I think if it was at the Big House, I think Michigan would win. But being at Purdue, Purdue's got a chip on their shoulder. They've sucked at football for years. This year, they finally have some spark. They finally have some talent. It could be a good. It's not going to be a stellar year for them, but this could be one of the better years they've had in a while in the Boilermakers. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay.
Mississippi State, number 17, going to Georgia, number 11. Georgia, I mean, they beat Notre Dame, but hasn't really had a lot else to prove this year. Hasn't had a lot of...
got a backup quarterback.
Yeah, backup QB. So Georgia, I think, still has a lot to prove this year, being at number 11. Do I think they're a little high? Yes, they were high at the beginning of the season, considering they had 4 wins last year. But Mississippi State, they just proved how good they can be this last week, beating LSU pretty decisively. So that could be a good game to watch.
Yeah, I think so. I think
it's an SEC matchup.
With seeing how Mississippi State played against LSU, I could see them coming away with a win there.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
All right, number 4, Penn State at Iowa. So I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. It's at Iowa, so you know Iowa's going to show up. You know their fans are going to show up. You know they're going to do that awesome thing where they turn around and wave to the Children's Hospital.
Right.
They're going to show up and they're going to bring their A game against Penn State. But Penn State, they've been putting up 50-some points per game. They're a hell of a team to watch. Iowa's got to prepare really well for that game if they want to make it a game and not get destroyed by Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, with some of these, when Michigan comes to Iowa, Iowa upsets them. Different things like that, they get up for these big home games. Mm-hmm. I think Penn State's going to be a little bit more than they can handle, though.
Yeah, I think they will too. Then we got number 15, Auburn at Missouri. So yeah, it's Missouri. They had a good year last year. They almost ended up going to the SEC championship game. But Mizzou, I don't know how good they are. I haven't watched them play this year. Auburn, I think
they lost Purdue 35-3, but
I still think Auburn is not a good team. Not as good as what everybody else thinks in the rankings, the AP and the coaches poll. I don't think they're at 15, maybe in the top 25, but I think this week could be a true test. They're going to Missouri. That could be actually a really good game, and I'm actually hoping to get to watch a good amount of that game.
Okay.
I don't have a pick there. I bet Auburn wins, but
I don't think it's going to win. But
I don't think it's going to be a good game.
It could be kind of a boring game, but
I mean, last week they won 14-6. Auburn did, and then they beat Mercer 24-10. So I'm just not impressed with them offensively. I think they have a lot of improvements that can be made. Notre Dame at Michigan State. So this is always just a fun one. They seem to have kind of a rival game going on there, but neither team's ranked. So it's not going to be a high-powered game. It's not going to be a game where people are going to go out of their way to watch, unless they're Notre Dame fans or Michigan State fans.
Well, and I mean, I might, because this one is one where going into last year, there were two teams with very high expectations, and they both go 4-8.
Yep.
Michigan State had gone to the playoff the year before. Notre Dame had a lot of guys back, and both teams go 4-8.
Yep.
This year, I think Michigan State starts out 3-0. Notre Dame was ranked for a minute there. Lost a close one to Georgia, but they're still hovering around just outside of the top 25. They had a pretty decent win against Boston College yesterday.
Yep.
So I think that will be a pretty good game, and whoever wins that, I think, has an edge between the two as far as who's kind of rising back up.
Yeah, so I could agree with that. Next one I got was UCLA at Stanford. So now this game, you just had two teams that were in the top 25 that both lost to unranked teams and dropped from the top 25. So,
and they both lost to teams in non-Power 5.
Yeah. So they're both going to come in with a chip on their shoulder.
And the game's at 7:30 for them, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's 9:30 for us.
So Josh Rosen, everyone's pretty high on him. Yeah, they had a good comeback win in week 1, but is UCLA really worthy of top 25 ranking? They've showed so far, no. I think Rosen is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's Heisman worthy. compared to some of the other talent, I think, in college football. So and maybe that's the talent around him. I don't know.
In preseason, maybe he was, but I don't think he is.
He thinks he is.
Well, everyone else thinks he's going to be like a top 10 draft
pick.
pick.
And he might be a good pro quarterback. We don't know.
He might be.
But UCLA at Stanford, who's got the bigger chip on their shoulder? They both just lost. They both want to get that win back.
Stanford's got 2 losses in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, they played USC and San Diego State.
They had a good year last year.
Last couple years. So
we will see.
Yeah.
All right. Time to talk about Nebraska.
Really?
Yeah. So, I usually tell people to calm down. You know, it's Husker football. Calm down. We're going to get it together. We're going to pick up the pieces. I don't know what's going to happen this year. I really don't.
We were talking yesterday, 3, maybe 4 wins.
21-17 to the MAC. And not even one of the better MAC teams. This was against Northern Illinois, who hasn't been one of the better MAC teams for years.
For the last few years. They used to be pretty good.
They used to, but it's been years since they've been out there.
They also lost their starting quarterback week 1, and they lost their top receiver last week. So, coming in with a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they were showing all these things during the game about how Northern Illinois has beaten Purdue by 35 points, and they went in and beat Iowa a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, they played Ohio State, who was number 1 at the Horseshoe,
yep.
And they lost 20-13. But so yeah, I mean that's great. Like they play pretty well against Big Ten teams, but I mean, is it the same players? More than likely, most of them are not there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I thought too. You know, Nebraska. We didn't show up. We had a close game in week 1 against Arkansas State.
Right.
Last week we did not show well against Oregon, giving up 42 points in the first. Came back, but we didn't quite show it. And this week I'm like, all right, so we were 1-1. We should have a chip on our shoulder. We should come into our home playing a MAC team and come out really playing well, playing strong, and hopefully win. And not only win, I told my buddy Brett that hey, Tanner Lee's going to throw for like 85-90% completion rating and have a hell of a game. I think
we should win this game by 35 points.
Yeah, and I thought we would win big.
28 points, 35 points.
Instead, we start with a pick 6. And then we have another pick 6, and right away we're down 14-0. Not the fault of the receivers this time. So last week there was a couple problems with receiver communication downfield by Lee and the receiver. That wasn't the problem this time. This was Tanner Lee. The second interception, he got pressure. He was being hit as he threw, but I don't even know where he was throwing in the first place because we didn't have somebody open. So,
right.
And I don't think the guy was going to be open. So I thought it was going to be a poor decision anyways.
Well, let's just real quick talk about that first pick 6. So they were talking before the game about how Nebraska probably just needs to, if they win the toss, get the ball first because the way the last couple weeks have gone, the other team's been able to kind of move the ball on us and score a touchdown. And they said Northern Illinois was going to have the same type of offense that Arkansas State and Oregon had.
Yep.
So let's take the ball, let's go down and score a touchdown and get the crowd into it. Well, we get the ball, and we go boom, 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 and we're right there. And then it's just kind of a lackadaisical, kind of drop back, kind of, I'm going to look right at this guy and throw a screen pass.
Well, here's the difference between, I think, Tanner Lee and a lot of the Mason Rudolphs, the Baker Mayfields, and those other type quarterbacks in college. They would have read that. They would have read that play and said, this is not the right pass. And I go back, I take Tanner Lee out of it and the receiving core out of it, and I go back to Langsdorf and our offense coordinator. We were in the red zone. Or just outside of it.
And I know
why aren't we running the ball?
I know not having Trey Bryant hurt a little bit because Mikael Wilbon is...
He's not as good.
He's nowhere near as fast. Trey Bryant is way better.
But our offensive line was opening up some big holes for Wilbon. He had some really good runs. But early on in the game, give the guy a chance. You throw. We're not a swing pass team.
Well,
we're not. We're not that.
I know, and I hate that. And
it's not a good
I'm
call.
still a little confused because Wilbon he's in boom boom runs a couple plays, maybe caught like a screen pass, and like he's tired. He needs somebody to come in and spell him, right? So we put a Zigbo in for like the first time all season, and he runs for 8 yards and carries like 3 guys. And like you could hear it, the crowd went wild. Everybody's like, "Hey, not really sure why this guy hasn't been playing. He's played for the last 2 years, done that exact same thing right there.
Yep.
Why hasn't this been happening?" And I know that they gave it to him again, and he didn't run for any
0 yards.
He ran for 0, but like maybe when we're down there on first and goal at the 10 or whatever, why don't we give him the ball? Why are we trying to do like a screen pass?
Why don't we just
a swing pass?
We're at a big disadvantage having Tanner Lee as a quarterback. So I was excited about him at the beginning of the year.
A lot of people were.
Yeah, and so, Micah, yeah, so is Zigbo better than Wilbon? Absolutely. I mean, we saw what a Zigbo could do last year.
Right, this is what I said.
And
why is this guy not playing?
Yes, he's better than Wilbon, and he was better than him last year. In the depth chart, he was above. Actually, I thought he'd be number 1 this year.
So did I.
And even Trey Brown, I don't have a problem with him.
No, I don't have a problem with him. He's awesome. So I'm not taking anything away from him.
I thought they'd be number 1, number 2. But now they're not even talking about him playing at all. They're talking about who's our third string.
No, Jalen Bradley.
Bradley.
He's a true freshman.
Forget that.
Why don't you redshirt that dude?
Yeah.
We have 3 other. We have Bryant and Zigbo, which I think would be 1 and 2. Why aren't those guys playing?
Yeah.
Like redshirt that dude. He'll be great. We don't need him right now.
Zigbo is kind of like an Amani Cross, but better.
But
not only can he bust through people, but
and
he's
I read things. People are like, "Oh, Devonta Zigbo's poor man's Amani Cross." No, he's better.
No, I don't know. That frustrates me because we have the skill, but our quarterback, he's not mobile at all. Like
I know when you were saying that we're ready, he had a disadvantage. I know he had 2 rushing touchdowns,
4 yards and
but he moves so slow.
He
doesn't roll.
He has no escapability.
No mobility.
No escapability. Someone comes to pressure him, he folds. He can't do anything. He can't move.
And I know there were times we were saying he would throw the ball away, and that was great because that's something that Tommy wouldn't do. But the one thing that's different about the 2 of them is that Tommy would run for 5 yards, maybe 20 yards or more. And maybe sometimes he wouldn't get anything, or maybe it was like a tackle for a loss for a yard or 2 or a couple yards.
Yep.
But with Tanner, it's like a sack or a pick.
Yeah.
Because he's just trying to get rid of the ball or whatever. It's really frustrating because we've been all excited. Like, hey, man, we actually have a quarterback that looks like a quarterback when he drops back.
Nebraska football has always been a rushing team. And over the years, we've seen that dwindle down, and it's getting frustrating because we have the running. We still recruit running backs, good running backs.
And they're good.
And not only that, but you look at I've talked to a couple people yesterday, you look at our wide receiving core. You got Lindsey, you got Armstrong, you got
Stanley Morgan.
Sorry, I said Armstrong. Stanley Morgan, you got Lindsey, you got Pearsonell.
And J.D.
Spielman. You have 3 tight ends.
Reimers
with
those guys.
Hoppus
is good. He's good tight end.
And we have another one too. I can't remember his name, but we got another running back. And guess what? We have a good fullback who we don't use enough.
Yeah.
Our fullback he made like 4 awesome blocks down.
He gave the guy a scholarship. You might as well give him the ball.
He hit the hole and led Wilbon yesterday a couple different times on his longer runs. But you saw those replays right up the middle, boom, blocking. Going back to the wide receiver core, though, and including tight ends, we probably have in the country the best core of wide receiver talent and tight end talent in the country. You look at a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but Stanley Morgan, I think, is going to be absolutely fantastic next year and in the NFL.
Yeah. Now we missed some passes yesterday. We had some catches that should have been made.
We had drops, but not nearly as bad. I mean,
but we got to have. Let's see. Should we go full UAB with the football program?
Kirk.
Very funny, Kirk.
No, I don't know. I mean, not quite.
Here's the problem. We have a good quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's thrown 7 picks in 2 games. That's a problem. That's a big problem. What do we need?
Especially when 3 of them are pick sixes.
Yeah. So what do we need to do there? Well, do you bench him? I think you do, to be honest. I think you bring in, give Gebbia a chance, or Patty O'Brien.
You want to burn Gebbia's red shirt?
I do. Dude, I want to win some games this year.
Well, I mean, I want to win games too, but damn, I don't know.
Terry Lee's already a junior. Patty O'Brien's going to be a junior next year.
And
so we got to play Gebbia at some point.
I mean, My plan was to redshirt Jebbia this year, so then he could maybe. Well, I thought Tanner Lee was going to be better, and then next year he'd be a senior and he'd be really good.
Yeah.
And then by that point, when he leaves, Jebbia will be a sophomore and be the quarterback for 3 years. It'd be great.
So
I don't know anymore.
I don't see it with Tanner Lee right now. I thought in the first game I thought he had a great game. I thought he was throwing the ball well, a lot of excitement around him. But now it's like, well, seven interceptions, you got some pick sixes, and really, I just don't see his vision.
And some really poor third down percentage, conversion percentage.
Once again, and a lot of the third downs were within 2-3 yards, and we're throwing the ball.
I know. And that,
put your fullback in.
Nothing more in the world that drives me nuts than like 3rd and 3 or less and not running the ball.
Go back to Nebraska football.
I know.
Run, ground and pound, get it in there, get the fullback in, and block. And that's one thing I really thought we needed to do yesterday, and it would have helped us out. So, So, Mike, absolutely. So, Langsdorf being more of a problem than Tanner Lee. I couldn't agree. The swing pass.
No,
so
I
agree
with you on that.
The first pick six, I don't think that should have been a pass. It should have been thrown for one. I do think Lee should have been able to read that, but it shouldn't have been the play call. Like I said, you back it up before that. Why are we calling that play when we should have been able to just run the ball? I mean, plain and simple. Why are we throwing the ball there? That's not Nebraska football. They're trying to turn it into a pro football team. Nebraska is not a 60%, 60, 70 times passing the ball in a game. We can't do that. We don't have the quarterback talent. We don't have the offensive line. That was probably the biggest issue of the day. It was a mixture of, yes, play calling, I think was a big problem for us yesterday, especially early on.
Play calling wasn't great. Tanner, again, did not have a... he had an
awful game.
Terrible game.
Terrible game, yes.
He's a little rattled right now. He's got to figure something out.
Yep.
Offensive line was god-awful.
Garbage. 71, guy, I can't remember his last name now, taking over for Neville.
Right.
There's a lot of hype around him. Think he should play over Neville. Man, if you watch that kid play yesterday, he missed blocks. There was times where he didn't touch anybody, and they got to Tanner Lee. So not only Tanner Lee did he have a bad game, but he didn't have a chance to have a good game because there was so much pressure on him because their offensive line couldn't stop anybody. So our offensive line was a problem. Yes, we're young, but it was still a big problem in yesterday's game. Big problem. So
and just real quick. Can we get DeMornay Pearsonell's punt returns back from his freshman year? Like, he's messed up in the head or something because he's letting balls go when he should fair catch them. So down at the 1, then he's
picking it up at the 5-yard line.
Picking it up, and then he's fair catching when he shouldn't, and then I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
but it might be time to throw a J.D. Spielman back there or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might be. Or even Lindsey. I think Lindsey would be fine back there.
Both those guys are speedsters that are going to be absolutely unbelievable.
So as a whole, our offense was god-awful. Our defense actually didn't play that bad.
Our defense didn't give up any points until
when they needed to make a stop.
Until when they needed to make a stop, and then they threw the ball. It's funny because we're giving up 8 yards a play so that they don't go deep, and then
all of a sudden they go deep.
And they hadn't done. They had 51 passing yards the entire game, and then he throws a 56-yard pass in the fourth quarter.
So I think either they just weren't trying to beat us deep the whole game, but really our defense, when we needed to step up, we didn't. Which is kind of how it's played out this entire year so far.
It's kind of funny because actually the defense played more than well enough to win that game.
Oh yeah,
for us yesterday.
Yeah, and our offense did nothing.
You have a score of 17 points at home against Northern Illinois. I thought Northern Illinois would score some points on us. I really did, but I didn't think that we were going to have a problem scoring.
Yeah, everybody's going to score points on us. So, just very, very upsetting. It was hard to watch. And so I talked about a Whine session. So here's the thing. Like I said early on,
I'm not really whining. I'm just pissed.
Well, and so I mentioned yesterday on the page is, hey, Husker fans, you're allowed to be pissed. You're allowed to be really mad right now. I'm really mad.
We gave Riley an extension last week.
This is not the Husker football that we're used to. We're not running the ball like we used to. We have the running backs to do it. We have the fullback to do it. We have the wide receiving core to even run the ball. And we did actually a couple nice runs yesterday with our wide receivers. I think we have potential to be so much better than what we are, and I think that's why people are so frustrated. Is because Nebraska has the talent to do it.
Should be 3-0 right now.
And if we're 2-1, I mean, Oregon's a good team. If we would have lost to Oregon and come back and won this week, I would have been fine with it. Yeah, last week sucked because we had the picks, but besides that, our team is better than what we're showing. Just some things. So looking on Husker Nation and seeing, kind of what some people were talking about. Hey, they asked, what's the next process? What are we going to do next? And some things I saw recurring were, hey, take Tanner Lee out, fire Mike Riley, fire Sean Eichhorst. Eichhorst has been needing to be gone for years, if you ask me. I think he's an awful AD. He tried to blame other people on trying to get rid of the Friday after Thanksgiving game. No.
Yeah.
That's all him. The Black Friday game, that's him.
He didn't realize that people were going to get that upset about it.
Yeah, and I think that was his call,
shoot.
and he tried blaming everyone else. But I'm on board for Eichhorst. We'll talk about the rest of the coaching staff in a second. A lot of Bo Pelini supporters coming out saying Bo, once again, 9-3 seasons, never had a losing season. Bill Callahan is back. I saw that a couple times. Very similar to what happened with Callahan.
It's really similar. You go to this passing style offense, and those were dark days, and
we're not a pro style team.
It's kind of
daunting.
It's looking kind of similar. It's pretty upsetting.
A lot of people just saying run the ball, which I think everyone can get on board with. Run the damn ball. Our offensive line. A lot of people talking trash about offensive line. Some people mention Les Miles. Hey, let's get a coach like Les Miles in.
His son is on the team.
And a couple people saying, hey, 2 of his 3 seasons, he started off 1-2, and there's only been 3 times in the last 54 seasons that Nebraska started 1-2, and 2 of those have come under Mike Riley. So,
then there was that one. If Mike Riley wins next week, he'll start out 17-13 in his first 30 games at Nebraska, which is the exact record that Bill Callahan had, 17-13 in his last 30 games at Nebraska, which got him fired.
His last 30 games.
So
now,
where are you at? I mean, what are you thinking?
Saw a couple really funny memes about Riley being a really nice guy. He's a nice fella. Is it coaching? Is it Mike Riley? Is it Langsdorff?
Is it just?
Is it Diaco? I mean, what's the story? Is it our talent?
We've been everyone's been on Diaco over the last couple weeks, but I mean, defense played pretty well yesterday. I mean, I know we were going against a backup quarterback, so I mean, we'll see when we start playing some of these Big Ten powerhouse teams. Is it just the actual attitude around the team? Like, I think Mike Riley's a great guy. He's just got this Mr. Rogers kind of put you to sleep type of voice, and I just is that just kind of the way that the team is kind of just everything will be fine. We have a lot of good players that are making plays and doing a lot of work. I don't know.
His press conference was awful. I mean,
it was 40 minutes. I watched 20 minutes and I called you because I was so upset.
He's very nonchalant. It seems like he doesn't care. I mean, I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he does.
But it seems like it's not a big deal. Hey, I don't know what to tell you. Hey, we lost. Well, dude,
we have guys that can make plays that just didn't make plays. And you're like, no, you got to say something more than that.
Yeah. Someone needs to light a fire up under his ass to actually get him to have some passion and some fire in the way he talks to the press. I mean, he doesn't need to be Bo Pelini fire, but he's got to have some anger. I mean,
is that what people wanted? Got mad. People got mad. People got hurt because Bo would get on and yell, and
he got pissed off.
He wouldn't talk to media, and he was yelling at players on the sidelines. I don't know about you guys, but those are the best coaches I ever had.
Well, Bo was passionate not only about his players. He cared more about the players than any coach ever has. Obviously we had other coaches that did, but Bill Callahan never cared, and Riley said, you would think he cared, but at the same time, you watch his press conference, it's man, do you care about this team winning? These kids want to win, and you act like you don't even care. I mean, there's no passion in the way he talks to the media, and there should be. He should be mad. He should be mad about losing. He should go in that locker room. He should be yelling at the team, saying, this is what we didn't do. He should be going and yelling at Langsdorff. He should be yelling at whoever he needs to get someone to light a fire up and get passionate and excited like we do talking about it. It's just...
Oh, and much more people than us that are
God.
extremely more...
Everybody.
vocal and
I saw
brutal about it.
People on Cornhusker Nation were like, don't talk about the coach. Yeah, Mike Riley, give him some time. Bo Pelini screwed up this program. False. Now, did Mike Riley screw it up? No, I can't really say that, but he's not really showing that he wants to do any more. He seems satisfied, and he can't be satisfied.
The problem with Bo Pelini wasn't, well, it was, the way I see it is, it probably was more of his, like, he wouldn't talk to media, and he just looked bad, like, and then we'd get rolled up in a big game, and then there'd be him yelling on the sidelines and him being rude to the media. Mike Riley came in, we won the Michigan State game when they were ranked in the top 5 in a losing season for us. Aside from Tommy getting hurt and us getting blown out by Ohio State and kind of Iowa because we didn't have our starting quarterback. Other than that, we haven't gotten blown out. But when we had Bo, we blew out the teams we were supposed to blow out. Yeah. We would win games that were, this might be kind of a tough game, and then we'd get blown out by somebody. Yeah. But I mean, what do people want?
I'm making the call now. I think we maybe beat Rutgers in Illinois for a 3-win season. I don't think we're going to beat Wisconsin. We're not going to beat Ohio State, like I said. Taking back my word on that. We will not beat Ohio State at home. I think we're going to have 3 wins. I think we're going to have 3 wins this season. And it's unfortunate. I've never in my entire life predicted a 3-9 season, at least that I can remember. But this is probably the worst I've ever seen Nebraska Huskers look on and off the field.
That's the worst performance I've ever seen.
I'm 30 years old, so worst performance I've seen in my 30 years living. So,
well, I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, when we were growing up, granted we were one of the best teams in the country at that time. It was like at the first half you're winning by 28, 30 points. We'd go outside and play football, throw the ball around and stuff, and we'd end up coming in late to start the second half because we'd be out there playing and we're not worried about anything. No. This is the first time I can ever remember we had 0 points at halftime. Yeah. And it was at home against Northern Illinois. It's not like we had 0 points at home against or on the road against Penn State. Yeah. Or Ohio State.
Yeah, it's not looking good early on. So Husker fans, hang in there. It's going to be a long season. Bleed Husker red. Never stop. I am a fan.
I'm never going to give up.
Yeah.
On the Huskers. Thing I care about more than anything else in the world.
Through and through, we're Husker fans. We always will be. We deserve to be pissed. We deserve to be unhappy. We're still going to love our team. We're still going to cheer them on next week. But we deserve to be upset and deserve to be unhappy with the way things are going and the way things have gone over the last couple of years with the amount of talent that comes into the program.
And you pay a team $820,000 to come in and they beat you.
And we don't want to lose the talent that potentially will be coming in. So that's another issue is recruiting. So we want to keep that strong. So
well, that's true.
That's all we really have for today. Just the last thing I mentioned in an announcement at the beginning of the show. So tag Cornhusker Nation in this post. One thing that been talking with them, we had a shout out and a share last week as well. Talking with them about how things are going to go forward and potentially looking at a partnership with them. So more to come on that. Hopefully, we want to grow 2 average guys. We want to be out there. We want to keep talking. We want you guys to talk to us and have really good conversations on the Huskers and football in general. It's one thing we enjoy talking about every Saturday or every Sunday, and we enjoy watching it every Saturday. So more to come. Cornhusker Nation, be on the lookout. We'll have more to come on that. Arizona State, 1996, I believe. Although that was a road game.
That's right. Did we not score at all in that game? They had Jake the Snake Plummer.
Jake the Snake Plummer. Thanks, Micah, for the reminder.
Good call. That probably is about the last time that we didn't have any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Nebraska's got the talent. We got potential. We have to show it. We got the coaches that need to be more passionate. We got college football. A lot more to come this year. Cornhusker Nation. We'll have more to come on Cornhusker Nation. Stay tuned.
I mean, the one thing that I'm looking forward to is there's quite a few teams right now, I think, that definitely have potential of making the playoff.
Yeah.
They're not,
There's no shoe-in right now.
Yeah.
Alabama's
not. There's really not. So, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a fun rest of the season. So
wish that we were part of it.
Yeah, we're not going to be part of it this year or next year, but hey, Cornhusker Nation, 2 average guys, we'll be back next Sunday. Might be a little bit of a later show next Sunday, but we'll be back, talk about college football again, talk about week 4. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Have a good night. I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we're two average guys with opinions.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.